Hello dear students, welcome to the online education of class 7 science. So dear students, in the previous class we were discussing about the types of soil. Okay, so there are three different types of soil. Those are sandy soil, clayey soil as well as loamy soil. So the particles, if the proportion of the particles is of the larger size, then such a type of soil is called sandy soil. If the proportion of the particles is having fine particles, then we call it as a clayey soil. So if the soil contains the amount of portion of particles of the both combination of both smaller size particles as well as a large size particles, then we call it as a loamy soil. So then we have to understand now, so the types of soil we have understood. Now we have to learn about the properties of each kind of soil. First let us study about the properties of sandy soil. See, the size of the particles of the any soil has very important influence on its properties. The size plays very important influence on its properties. So how it is? See, so sand particles, they are quite larger. See, as I said, sand particles are quite larger, hence so they can fit closely together. They cannot fit closely together. See, because of the size, particles are larger in size, these particles cannot fit closely together. You just take, see, suppose just take some amount of sand in your palm, just try to bind them and just leave them, so each particle falls down individually. But if you take the another kind of soil and you just compress it or press it, so at least it fall down as a clump. Okay, small lump of soil, it as it becomes a group, or lump of soil it becomes, and it will fall down. But whereas sand particles are, because they are large particles in size, so they cannot fit together, hence there is a large spaces in between them. So thence they are filled with the large spaces in between them. So that's why we can say that the sandy soil is well aerated, because there is a large amount of air spaces are present between the particles of the sand. Okay, so we say that the sandy soil is well aerated. So the sandy soil can be usually light and well aerated, rather it is dry. Okay, so now what about the clayey particles? So what about the clay soil? The soil particles of the clay are much tightly packed, because they are smaller in size. Fine particles are present in the clay soil, that's why they are much tightly packed together. Tightly they are packed. Okay, so hence they leave a very little space in between for them, for the air to pass through. So very small little air passage they allow. Okay, little space they leave for air to pass. So unlike the sandy soil, so water can be held in the teeny gap between the particles of the clay. So unlike the sandy soil can hold more amount of water, whereas water can easily drain through the sandy soil, whereas in the clay soil the water can be held in the teeny gaps between the particles of the clay soil. So clay soil can be having little air, it can hold very little amount of air. It can hold more amount of water, but it can hold very little amount of air, because it has very small space between the particles of the clay soil, because there is clay particles are tightly packed together. So but they are very heavy as they are compared to, and they can have more amount of water, they can occupy or they can hold more amount of water as compared to the sandy soil. So now let us understand whether the clay soil is best, or the sandy soil is best, or loamy soil is best. The best soil, top soil for growing up the plants is loamy soil, because as it is the mixture of sandy soil, loamy soil, sandy soil, clay soil, as well as there is another type of important soil, particles of soil is present, that is what we call it as silt. So what is this silt? So silt is something that occurs as a deposit in a river beds. So river beds means the place where the river flows. So you might be observing now, so during the summer days in Galagali, so the river Krishna, when it is completely dried up, you can see the full, it is deposition of the soil particles, okay, which we call it as silt. How does it come? Because during the rainy season, so when the water is flowing, Krishna river is flowing from the Maharashtra along the downs and ups of the streams and all the places, along with it carries some amount of soil along with it. It will be keep on carrying, and it is getting deposited on each and every place wherever it is passing through. So such deposited soil we call it as a silt. Okay, so the loamy soil is also the what, it has a humus in it, it is having the humus on it, so it has the right water holding capacity for the growth of the plants, it is having the right water holding capacity for growth of the plants, means so I mean not more not less, so average amount of water it can hold for the growth of the plants. So dear students, I hope you understood the importance and properties of each kind of soil. Thank you and have a nice day.